Hi everyone. So let me share with you how did my ally journey start off, right? So it started off 4 decades back, yeah. So the time when I was born, I remember my dad telling me that there were a group of people who came home just because they got to know there was a female born, and he was pretty uncomfortable at that moment because he has heard about a lot of incidents. He has witnessed a lot in the trains, and he was pretty skeptical of who these people are and why are they coming home to see my daughter. And he still allowed them to come over, and they were all surrounding his daughter, is what he said. And they all blessed her, like literally doing all the things what they do to give their blessings, to give their love, to show their kindness. And I was just listening to him when he was telling that, and then after that they usually clap, and when they were clapping, he kind of felt a little uncomfortable, and he offered them money. So they took the money and they just, rotated it around my head and put it back in my hand. So I was in my dad's arms. And I had no clue what was happening then because I was just maybe a day or two old. And it was quite deep when I heard that story. This was in a beautiful city called Lucknow in the northern India. And that is where I think my connection, and I think this was not a connection which started off on that particular day. This was something which was always there, and which was something what I was meant to be here for. And that is what brings me here, my dear friends. Today, what I'm going to share is something which is very close to my heart, which is very deep, very sensitive. It's not with an intention to blame anyone or to hurt anyone. It's only that I'm sharing my part of my journey, what I have gone through, what I had experienced. And maybe it does connect with some of you. Maybe it doesn't. It's absolutely okay. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. That's also perfectly fine with me, because my intention here is not to convince anyone, not to force anyone, not to force any thoughts or ideas. It is just sharing my story. All right. So, as the first child born to the family, there was a lot more expectations. Yeah, there was a lot of ways in which it was put across to me that you're the first child to the family, you have a lot of responsibility. After me, it would be you who would be the, leading member of the family. So you need to be like that boy, you need to be strong, you need to be courageous, you need to be this, you need to be that, and blah 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 blah. All the expectations started just levying on me, and that started becoming so much more of a burden than even feeling hopeful or feeling good about this journey that I was stepping into. And gradually, what started happening during the childhood was the comparisons, because then I had my siblings and I was not all that good in studies. I was just a mediocre, just somehow sailing through to clear every year and move on to the next grade. But that brought in a good amount of comparisons because, quite fortunately, my siblings were very smart, very nerdies, I would say. They were good and sharp in their education. They scored good ranks. I never did. And there started the comparison. So now you know what happens when comparisons happen. it shatters the individual. They lose their self-worth, you lose their self-value. You start feeling that if you're not fitting into the box, you're not going to be loved, you're not going to be cared, you're not going to get everything that you need to get. So it was more becoming of a pleasing attitude to live in that environment, to survive in that environment. Otherwise, it was becoming deep down suffocating. And as a child, it is not a very pleasant feeling. I personally felt it. And I know many of us who might be listening to it, maybe something is triggering inside, some chords are getting connected, somewhere it's getting that emotional string activated. But let me tell you, many of us go through this kind of discomfort when we don't know how to put things across, how to set expectations right, how to communicate what you want your child to be doing. Because your child is also a human at the end of the day. I always loved wearing t-shirts, shorts ever since my childhood, and it was a part of me. I felt so much more comfortable. I just felt it as me. And all of a sudden, when I attained puberty at a particular age, I was asked not to wear all this. I was asked to only wear skirts and dresses and salwars and churidars. And I was like, wait, what is this happening now? Again, there was a shift. Again, there was an expectation set without having a clarity of why is this being told to me? Like, what is my clothing got to do with me transitioning from a child to an adolescent or a teenager? What's that got to do? I had no clarity. I was clueless, but it was all told. It is mandatory. It is meant to be. This is how it is. That is how it is. And no more male friends coming home that will not be entertained. Like, we used to have a good amount of male friends coming home, sitting all together in the living room, watching TV, listening to stories, maybe studying together, also celebrating birthdays, cutting cakes at home. Like, their birthdays used to be celebrated at our home. So it was a beautiful atmosphere. And I always enjoyed this space. But as I grew up, I was restricted. I was cut off from my friend circle. I felt so much more left out because all my happiness was always to be in school, to be with my friends, to enjoy that time where we are all spending together, talking, having fun, laughter, playing games, cricket, cocoa, whatever it is. We used to enjoy this time. And for me, those moments started just getting off my hands. I had no grip over it. It was just washing away, making me feel so left out, so lonely, killing me within, that I just didn't know what to do. There were days that I used to walk into the bedroom and we had a wooden cupboard, and right at the bottom of the cupboard there was a big space where I could literally go inside and sit and close myself from the inside. And I used to cry out, because living in a very conservative space, it is not easy to share your expressions. It's not very easy to open up and say how you feel, how you don't feel. How do you want to be felt? How do you want to be loved? It was all deprived. It was all feeling like a very monotonous life, just waking up, brushing, bathing, going to school, coming back, doing your works, doing your chores. And somewhere there was no emotional bonding happening. So I could neither communicate to them and neither they could connect with me. There was a lot of gap. And that's why I think people call it the generation gap. And when I went through all this, I used to even meet people who are the transgender people on the streets and see them clapping, see them begging, see them on the streets at night. And it was somewhere activating my chords, my inner chords, and making me feel that there's something what I need to do for the human race, for the community, for the people around who are not that privileged. Like, I personally felt underprivileged, like the minority, where I couldn't be myself, I couldn't open up, I couldn't voice, there was no voice to stand up for me. I totally, could resonate with that feeling of how the community felt on the outside. And that is where I felt speaking up is the only way forward. Keeping quiet, suffocating, suppressing, holding back who you are is not the way to live forward. And just imagine when it comes to a person's identity, sexuality, how this person must be feeling. They can't even be themselves. They can't talk up and say that, hey, though I'm in this female body, I feel more masculine. Because maybe from the childhood, that is how, or maybe even before you were born, that is what maybe your parents might have processed. They might have programmed that this is what I want, this is what I expect. Because the moment you initiate a thought, that is where manifestations happen. And this child who's coming into this world has no clue what was put into it the time it was born. And then the dilemma starts. So somewhere we need to consciously understand that what are we feeding? We're all energy bodies. What we think is what we become. What we eat is what we become. What we see is what we become. And for me, my journey from the time I was born onto this planet Earth up until my teenage, watching all this happening, experiencing it on myself, trashing my self-esteem, my self-confidence, feeling so low, feeling so left out, feeling abandoned completely. Though everything was there, I had good education, good clothing, food, a shelter to live under, but somewhere I was deep down broken, wounded. Healing was not there, but I was looking out for healing. And I felt that if I can do something for the LGBTQIA plus community and for the children who are going through these phases, I think that is where my soul lies. If I can connect, if I can awaken, if I can be supportive, if I can connect them to their inner strength, to their inner support, to their inner spirit, that is where my peace lies. And gradually when I moved on to my college, my graduation, I could connect with more people from the community in my college, in the premises around my college, where I could see people from the transgender community coming in, walking and clapping. And I always felt, why do they even need to do this? Like, they are also humans just like us. They also have 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose, a body, a hands, legs, everything just like us. Then why are they living a life like this? And that is when I felt that I need to be talking. I need to be opening up. I need to communicate with people to understand how do they feel. Listen to them. Just to understand the pain that they have gone through. And maybe that would help them heal to some extent. And my dear friends, this is just a glimpse of where my journey sparkled. And that is when I started voicing up, being rebellious. Maybe you call it bad, but maybe that was my way to come out. That was my breaking through point, where I started questioning. I had a lot of why this, because that was the only way to even let people know, let my elders know that we are not here to just fit into that box, to follow some guidelines which doesn't even make sense in that generation, in that 80s or 90s. And if there is something what you need to follow, tell me, why do I need to follow? Why is it meant to be this way? And I was coined the black sheep. that you don't listen, you're disobedient, you don't do this, you do no good, you're not capable of this, you're not a good person, and you're worth nothing, you're such a burden to us, and so on and so forth. And that didn't stop me. That only made me felt that I was not at the right place. I was not accepted for who I am. Did I have destroying thoughts? Did I have thoughts of self-destruction? Yes, I did. To a very large extent, I did. I have even harmed myself, hurt myself physically. And I felt bad at those moments because people whom I expected to be my support system were never there. And it broke me into pieces. It really hurt me to the core that whom do I go back to? Whom do I fall back to? Who is that one go-getter at that moment whom I can speak up to? And it was always my school friends, my college friends, to be very honest, because that is where I felt a space of freedom, a space where I could breathe free. I could feel that, I can just be myself for who I am, and I will not be judged. And that is when I connected with a lot of people who went through the similar feelings, who felt similar, who have gone through even worse things like physical abuse, sexual abuse. And that kind of shook me up, stirred me up, that hey, this is a wake-up call. At least, the least what you can do is keep your surroundings safe. Keep people in your surroundings safe. Educate them, make them aware that you're not here to take in shit. You're not here to take in the crap, to fit into people's expectations, to be a people pleaser, to live a life what they want you to be, and only then you're going to get it? No. Rather, you create your own legacy. You create your own life. You set your own boundaries, you set your own targets, you set your own expectations to be where you want to be, and you reward yourself based on that. Rest of it, I would continue maybe sometime else, but today I wanted to give you a glimpse of how me as an ally to the Pride community, to our LGBTQIA+++ community started, and I have huge respect, a lot of love, a lot of gratitude for you being connected with me and I being connected with you from a very long time, maybe even before I was born. I deeply feel it, I deeply believe it, that we're all together, bonded together in that oneness to make this world, to make this planet a better space for you and for me and for everyone around us. And we're all together in this journey. Thank you so much for listening to me. Love you all.